Good afternoon, everyone in attendance today and viewing online. Welcome to the regular council meeting of the Township of Cabot-Monaghan on Monday, March 18th. It is 1 p.m. and so we will call the meeting to order. We'll begin the meeting with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Cabot-Monaghan is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory in the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Nations for their care for and teachings about these lands. May we honor these teachings. I will look to council for approval of the agenda as presented. Councillor Byrne and Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, there was no closed session. The next item on the agenda is 6.1 minutes of the regular meeting held March 4th. Any issues with the minutes? If not, we can take a motion for them to be approved as presented. Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Byrne, all in favor? Those minutes are approved. We are now in the report section of the agenda. First report, Finance 2024-03, Statement of Remuneration and Expenses. Ms. Pope.
Thank you. I have before council the recommendation to receive the 2023 Statement of Council Remuneration and Expense Report as provided here today.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. This is a requirement under legislation that we receive this report. Any issues with the report? Ms. Pope's here to answer any questions. If not, we can take a motion to receive the report as presented. Moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded by Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? That is approved. Thank you for that, Ms. Pope. Next report, Peterborough County Official Plan Update Report, Ms. Ellis.
Mayor Graham, members of council, planning report 2024-13 is before you today with the recommendation that report PEB 2024-13 be received for information. The report merely summarizes the activities of planning staff with regard to the Technical Advisory Committee for the Peterborough County Official Plan. Attached to the report are the minutes of the 3 meetings that have been held to date. There are, I believe, 2 more meetings scheduled, and we will be going through the rest of the plan. Some of the more meaty issues have yet to be decided upon at the committee, but we will follow up on a continual basis so council is kept in the loop with the direction of the new plan already adopted, but in preparation for changes in provincial policy.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. So as I know, we're still awaiting some of the legislation that the new county OP has to conform to. So that's going to be, until we have that, we really won't know if it conforms. So is it safe to say that what this report summation or summarizes is that, you know, we're doing a lot of the clerical or language work, knowing that certain documents and certain pieces of previous legislation are no longer going to be enacted, and we're sort of doing that housekeeping work until we can do more of the sort of policy framework adjustments? Is that a safe canonization? And if so, do we know any further insights as to when those provincial policies might be coming to fruition?
To you, Mayor Graham and members of council. So no, we have no inside information as to when the new PPS may be enacted by the province. Last time I spoke to county planning staff, they had not been advised by their ministry friends about any potential date. The activities of the Technical Advisory Committee. So we are looking at changes to the plan to bring it into conformity with the provincial policy statement that is out for review by the provincial government. So they are more than housekeeping or grammatical. There will be some policy changes. There, as I say, some of the more meaty matters in terms of like agricultural policies and the natural heritage system policies have yet to be discussed at the committee. There is some, I don't want to say difficulty, but there will be challenges because we have heard that, you know, the PPS says that 3, you can have a house and 2 others or 3 others, and, you know, you can have severances in the agricultural area. But we've heard through the grapevine that that's being walked back by the provincial government because of pressure from the agricultural community. We just don't know, is it walked back to no severances, only 1? So that will be a little bit challenging. We'll also be talking about the implementation of an agricultural system. It's encouraged in the new PPS, but it doesn't say you have to. We're under the growth plan currently, you have to. So there are some meaty matters to be discussed moving forward.
Well, we'll wait and see, because I know there's a lot of people with a lot of questions, including probably a lot of people at this table as well. Other questions with regards to the county update? Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair, one thing I was wondering about, you're talking about this TAS or TAC, sorry, meeting in person rather than online. And I'm looking at the minutes and they're like, some of them are only an hour meeting. I'm just wondering about dragging staff from all the communities all over the place to some common place, if that's really necessary. But the other thing I'm more interested in is it talks about the agricultural designation and doesn't have a actual definition of, and I didn't know where that's being walked back and forth between the ministries. So what's actually going to come out of that? And also there, it mentions on page 25 about the settlement areas, like the boundaries for Millbrook. What's that really mean to us? Is that no longer an issue? It talks about it being deleted, so.
Through you, Mayor Graham, to Councillor Byrne and members of council. So with the proposed changes that the province is making, the settlement area boundaries for Millbrook may be more flexible, the same as settlement area boundaries for hamlets and other settlement areas throughout the province. Right now, in the county official plan, there's a firm boundary that was established through consultation with the township in Peterborough County. We both did a growth management exercise that determined the amount of acreage that was required to accommodate residential growth and employment land growth to the year 2051. Those strict requirements are proposed to be removed in this current draft. But again, we don't know what direction the province is going to take. In terms of the agricultural designation, the definition is prime agricultural land. So that usually means class 1 to 4. It can also mean lands immediately adjacent to those lands, even if they have a lower class soil. It can mean lands that are in a contiguous block of agricultural land. So there is an agricultural system currently identified in the Peterborough County official plan. And that, again, it's encouraged in the new PPS, but it's not mandatory. So that's something yet to be discussed. And with your last question, the Technical Advisory Committee, yes, meetings are held in person at this point in time. Many people, the meetings are held at the Peterborough County office in Peterborough. Many of the people attending those meetings live in Peterborough, so it is scheduled at 2:00 and we go to the end of the day. Generally, people are going the direction they're going to go anyway. There is accommodation for those people who cannot attend in person, and they can attend by Teams or Zoom. So we do find, as a general comment, that you get better discussion when people are sitting in person around a table.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Other questions? If not, we can look for a motion to receive the report for information. Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Good discussion. We'll look for more updates from the province as they come through. The next report is report PEB 2024-14, proposed telecommunication tower on Carmel Line. Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To members of council and public, before you is Planning Report PEB 2024-14. This report presents follow-up information which council directed staff to investigate from the February 20th, 2024 council meeting. At that meeting, council deferred Planning Report PEB 2024-08 for the proposed telecommunication tower at 7574 Carmel Line and directed staff to seek advice and clarification on a letter of non-concurrence and report back to council. As directed, township staff spoke with federal staff at the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada regarding the process after issuing a letter of non-concurrence. If council issues a letter of non-concurrence, the dispute process is outlined in federal documents. Firstly, the township inspector point will be asked to work together to try to resolve the issues. If a resolution cannot be achieved, then either the township or inspector point can ask ISED to mediate the concern. Then, based on the information provided, ISED will then make a final decision on the issues or continue arbitration until the resolution is resolved. ISED staff stated that this process is very rare and can take upwards of a year to get resolved. Also, during the February 20th meeting, Mayor Graham requested that Spectre Point respond to recent emails submitted to the report after the report was written. The noted concerns included co-location, a number of service customers, environmental impacts, dark sky compliant lighting, and potential impacts to migratory birds. Spectre Point did reply to the township, and township staff were copied on March 6th. In the same meeting, Councillor Byrne requested the date which Spectre Point submitted materials for the concurrence process. Spectra Point notes the public consultation was initiated September 14th, 2023, when an advertisement was placed in the Peterborough This Week newspaper. Information packages were also mailed to all property owners within 274.5 meters or 900.5 feet of the tower base. Council Byrne also requested that Spectra Point provide additional justification regarding the co-location of alternative towers. Communication with Spectra Point stated that the project cannot co-locate on the proposed tower at 995 Carmel because it's not technically viable. The proposed site took into consideration the coverage and capacity requirements both at the Eorn and Rogers network, and the site at 559 Carmel to the east would not effectively meet the goals and objectives of this project. Mr. Leggett of Spectra Point is available via Zoom to answer any additional questions. Some more recent concerns have been made regarding the township zoning bylaw and the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan. Infrastructure, including telecommunication towers, are permitted in natural core areas of the Oak Ridges Moraine, provided the need for the project has been demonstrated and is located as close to the edge of the natural area as possible. The report from Spectra Point states that this location is required to meet the project objectives and goals, and the location is on the edge of the significant woodland in an area that's been mostly previously cleared of trees. Township staff are not experts in telecommunication towers or coverage needs and rely on Spectra Point and the federal process of review to make sure this has been demonstrated. Township planning staff are of the opinion that the project has met the intent of township policies and planning report PEB 2024-14 presents the following recommendations. Firstly, that council receive planning report PEB 2024-14 for information. Secondly, the council direct planning staff to issue a letter of concurrence to Spectra Point on behalf of Rogers Communication for the construction of a guide tower telecommunications structure with the associated radio equipment cabinet on lands located at 574 Carmel Line, because the project has satisfied the intent of township policy regarding the siting of new telecommunication facilities. And thirdly, that the statement of concurrence include the following matters for consideration by the proponent and Innovation Science and Economic Development Canada. A, that the proposed road network to Carmel Line be completed to the satisfaction of the Township Public Works Department, and the extension of Carmel Line is assumed into the Township Road Net system. B, a sediment and erosion control plan prepared by a qualified professional is submitted and accepted by the township prior to any on-site activities. C, the use of tower lighting that reduces harm to migratory birds is used instead of the steady stirring burning lights. And D, that the letter of concurrence has a 3-year expiration date. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, staff, for taking the time to go back and do those additional work and provide those additional insights as council directed. Questions on the report, members of council, Deputy Mayor Huntley.
To you, Chair, excuse me, with regard to the recommendations that come out in the sediment erosion control plan and the proposed road, how do we enforce those conditions? Like, are we enforcing them with Spectra Point? Are we enforcing them with Rogers? Are we enforcing them with the ministry? Like, who is actually accountable to make sure that these conditions are met?
To you, Deputy Mayor and the rest of the council. These are recommendations provided in the letter of concurrence for the federal permit, as you would. So they would be upholden to them, but you're right, there's no recommendation or enforcement on our end.
Council Byrne.
Through the chair to Matt, on page 45 of the notes, public notification, I was a little unclear. So it talks about advertising this in the local schools, local newspapers, community gathering areas, public institutions, and the like. Do those institutions and facilities have to fall within the 900 feet of the base of the last guide wire? Or is that the general population that we might look at that, and was that ever done?
Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor Graham, to Councillor Byrne. So notice of this application was circulated in the newspaper, Peterborough This Week. So it went out to whatever the circulated area for that newspaper is. In addition, in accordance with the township's antenna policy, direct mailing occurred to people who are within 3 times the height of the tower.
Follow up, Council Byrne.
Through the chair, yes. So if if we can pull up page 45, I'm just looking at one of the requirements that the proponents, I guess, i.e. Rogers would be obligated to do. I just didn't know if that, I hadn't talked to anybody that actually noticed any of that. So I just wonder if that guideline was looked at. The other thing I'm curious about that I don't understand fully is how the EON is funded. EON.
So the EORN is funded through a myriad of different sources, including both the private partnership with the Rogers Communications. There's funding from both levels, the federal and provincial governments, as well as municipal governments across Eastern Ontario.
So for clarity, then, do we actually fund this EORN and with monies?
Not the municipality directly, but the county is a contributor in the project at that tier of government.
In terms of your question through you, Mayor Graham, to Councillor Byrne about the notice. So on page 45, if you're referring to section 4.2, that's i.e. SED's default public consultation process. We follow our consultation process because we have a process outlined in our antenna policy. And our policy requires circulation by first-class prepaid mail to everyone within who owns lands within 3 times the height of the tower. And it requires publication in a local newspaper.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Other questions, Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, to Ms. Ellis, just a little clarification on that one. I'm curious. Is it from wherever the tower is located, or is it from the property line of the property or of the, sorry, the property line of the location where the tower is located?
Through you, Mayor Graham, to Deputy Mayor Huntley. The measurement is actually taken from the point of the guy wire out from there. So the property lines do not impact the circulated area.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Other questions? Seeing none, there are 3 recommendations in the report that are familiar to council. Obviously, the third pertaining to the matters that we want followed up on by ISED for consideration. With the summation and the detail provided below, I think has provided the clarity that we were looking for from last time. So with that, we're looking for a mover and a seconder for the 3 or the 2 recommendations and the third recommendation with the 4 subsequent recommendations. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? That is approved. Thank you very much, Matt, for that submission of the report, and Karen for those informations. Moving on, we are at item 7.4 with regards to building inspector appointment bylaw sewage systems. Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. Recommendation for the report before you is that Kathleen Shepherd be appointed as a building inspector for the Township of Cavan-Monaghan. On April 1st of this year, Township of Cavan-Monaghan is taking on the sewage system program. And we are looking to appoint Kathleen to be contracted as an as-needed basis moving forward throughout the year.
So if I'm not mistaken, Kyle, this service was previously provided by Peterborough Public Health, and it's no longer a public health mandated program to impose. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Ms. Shepherd was the provider of that service at Peterborough Public Health, but she's been in the business for almost 4 decades, which is quite phenomenal. So obviously no one in the community or in the region probably knows this work better than her. So kudos for staff to get a as needed contract with someone who's obviously probably the most qualified person we could ever find. So that's pretty fantastic. Questions with regards to the report? Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, I'm just curious on the how the fee system works. Like, I understand that you budgeted for the inspections, but when Kathleen does her inspections, she bills it to your billing department, which then bills that inspection back to the homeowner. Is that how it works? So it's really a net zero in terms of a revenue source here. It's just a service gets paid for by the ultimate end user. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair, to Deputy Mayor Huntley, that it is net zero. So we collect when somebody applies for a septic permit, it's like any other building permit. They pay the fees up front, which are the exact same as Peterborough Public Health has had. We kept those fees the same, so contractors and the public are used to the same fees. Nothing's changed. We collect those when they apply for the building permit. Those go into our main fund, just like any other permit would, and she bills us just like any other contractor would as well. So in the end, it's supposed to be net zero. There's a few other little things with insurance and stuff like that that should work out, but we're only calling her in when needed, which for the first little bit will be to help us through the whole getting our processes set up. There's a lot of nuances to septic systems for us to understand in the field, so it'll be also kind of, we'll be tagging along with her on some of the inspections just to get that extra training as well. But yeah, long story short, it is net zero.
Kyle, with regards to the technical component of it, I think, if I'm not mistaken, being on the Board of Health, one of the things that was the justification for the big lead time was because a lot of the historical documentation was paper-based, and that there was going to be an issue with the transfer with regards to getting those sorts of historical documentations online. I know that was a part of the catalyst to getting started 2 years ago when they announced sort of that this transition was going to occur. Is that going to be, are you familiar at all with where we are with that transition, if it's on place, or if there's any causes for concern with regards to the modernization, if you want to use that term, for the historical data for septic analysis from a planning perspective?
To you, Chair. We've been in that whole process since we were notified. We're actually well underway. We've actually received a bunch of shared drives to transfer all that electronically. So they've actually put all their paper records electronic and transferred them to us already. We're still in the process of collecting that. The links aren't really working, so we don't have them yet, but we're working with them on that. We've also, Peterborough Public Health has been really good at working with us. We've had 4 half-day kind of training seminars for them to go over all their processes and how they believe we should roll it out. All the different types of, the big thing with septics is soils, and there's a lot that we still need training on, and that's part of this reason for bringing Kathleen in, is to understand percolation times and stuff like that. They're transferring all those documents, all the permits, everything they have electronically, and they're well underway.
Thanks for that. Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, to Mr. Phillips. So are we going to start to take this process in-house then? Like, I'm assuming there's got to be some sort of succession planning. If Ms. Shepherd's been doing this for 40 years, she's not going to be doing it for 40 more. So I'm assuming that, is the goal and the intention with all this training to be able to do it with our own staff, and after we've discovered, what this actual workload looks like? Is that where you're going? Thanks.
Through you, Chair, to the Deputy Mayor. Yeah, 100%. I'm certified already to do it. The other staff members are getting that certification, but it's like any trade. When you're a building inspector, you need to be jack of all trades. You got HVAC, plumbing, everything. Septics have a lot of tricky little complexities to them. So the intent is for us to kind of shadow her while she's doing hopefully, if we have time to go out there and actually see a lot of these things in the field and just get that experience part. But we do have, if we were to take it over, if she is technically retiring from Peterborough Public Health. So if she were to tell us by the end of the year she's no longer going to be providing that service, we will be able to take it over in-house. So, and the intent is for it to still be in-house.
Thank you for that, Mr. Phillips. Seeing no other questions, we are looking for a motion to appoint Kathleen Shepherd as the building inspector for the Township of Catamount. Councilor Byrne, Councilor Edgerton, all in favor? That is approved. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. The next report is Public Works 2024-01 Annual MECP Drinking Water Reports. Ms. Fradley.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you have Public Works Report 2024-01. The recommendation is that council receive the 2024-01 Annual MECP Drinking Water Reports for information. The purposes of this report is to provide council and members of the public with information about the Millburg drinking water system for the 2023 reporting year. You may notice that well 3 was out of service for a number of weeks, and that was due to turbidity issues last year. In May, we repaired and relined the well and became back into service. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Another legislative requirement report for housekeeping purposes. Questions with regards to the report, Councillor Byrne?
Through the chair to Jessica, on page 67 of the report, it mentions about some reason something didn't happen regarding lead and the pH levels. And when I'm looking through the report, I don't even see any documentation regarding lead or the pH levels. If maybe I missed them, I couldn't find them. What I'm wondering at that level is what actually happened that they got skipped over. And then how do you come about with the actual report, the sampling that was done, the criteria that you used to check? So when I went back to try to figure out the government limits, that was one thing I was hoping that could be on the report in the future. You specify what the sampling was, but I have no way of knowing what the upper limit is for any one of those chemicals. To me, that would be important for when I look at the report, that I can say, okay, yeah, you're under the maximum, but how close are you to that maximum? So I don't know how you pick what chemicals you check. And I'm curious about this lead and pH on page 67.
Just give you a minute, Jessica.
It would be under compliance 2.0.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Byrne. So the lead sampling is typically done in older municipalities. And at first, when the operating authority, the city of Peterborough, took on the sampling, they were not aware that it was required also in Millbrook. So through the inspection process, the Ministry of Environment indicated that they need to take these samples, and they have started that going forward. In terms of the samples, parameters and results, they are outlined in OREG 170, which is the drinking water standards for us to report on each year. It is a very large document, so it would cost a lot to put in here, but you can reference it if you're wondering what the upper limits are.
Thank you, Jessica. Other questions, Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, the volume of water delivered tables on page 5 of your report. I'm pretty sure I've asked for this before, but yeah, how does it compare year over year over year? Like, I know we have that data. It would be good to see, to January what's our growth look like, our consumption look like in this. I get this table's delivered for your regulatory purposes, but from a trending purpose, it'd be really good for us to see what's really going on. And I'd like to see that if we could. Thank you.
So I think just to sort of encapsulate what you're looking for, maybe some year over year trend lines. Is that sort of what we're talking about, rather than the month to month? Just knowing that there's on a more macro sort of level, looking year over year with regards to the growth that's occurring. Is that correct?
That's correct, through you, Chair. Like, if we look at June, for example, at 1378, how's that compared to last June or the June before? Or we know we have that data. So what's the trend? What's going on? We know we have houses coming in, and we know we've had things coming online. We have abnormalities. Trying my tongue under me. With regard to the cleaning of the standpipe and things like that, but things we could explain. But otherwise, the data is interesting on its own, but it's more interesting when it's related to something. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Huntley. Jessica will take that as a note, and we can make sure that that's captured, because I know there's a lot of other reports that come to council with regards to the water system. And this one is more specifically, I believe, for the legislative requirements. So there's specific things that it requires that are not really for our own internal purposes, but it's one of several reports on the water system that come back to council in addition to the master servicing plan and all of the data therein. So I know there's lots of technical data when it comes to the water system. It's reflected in different reports, but with regards to the legislative requirements, we probably won't put in things that are not to check the boxes of the legislative requirements for the report, but that will be captured in future reports. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to Jessica, on page 70 of the report, it mentions 2 improvements that will come forward in another statement somewhere in the future. I was just curious today, what those two improvements are regarding or what speculation is there, please?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Burns. So the improvements, are you speaking on the internal auditing process that the city of Peterborough? Yeah, so they have their own internal auditing. And these two improvements were minor administrative improvements internally for them to track their documents better. Nothing to do with the actual compliance of the water system.
Follow.
Please, through the chair. So when I look at page 79 for the report, it's talking about different things that kind of caught me off guard. It mentions about the number of designated facilities. Now, is that households, is that businesses? And then we don't have any applicable data, which kind of confuses me. And it also mentions about the number of interested authorities. I would kind of think that would be something that would be known, but it's down as NA.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Burns. So designated facilities under the Ministry of Environment, they're designated through the Ministry of Environment as a vulnerable population. We don't have any designated here that we have to report to. And in terms of interested authorities, it's usually connected with any other municipality that might be getting our water. So if we feed to external, that sort of thing.
Thanks for those, Jessica. Seeing no other questions, we are looking for a mover and a seconder to receive the report for information. Councillor Natchoff, Deputy Mayor Huntley, all in favor? That is approved. Still on deck, Jessica, with the next report, Public Works 2024-02, wastewater treatment plant wet well upgrades.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you is Public Works Report 2024-02. Millbrook wastewater treatment plant wet well upgrades. So the recommendations before you is that council receive for information that staff proceeded with the purchase of 4 submersible flight sewage pumps for the Millbrook wastewater treatment plant as per the single source of the township purchasing policy. This is by Xylem Canada in the amount of $66,980. With net municipal HST, $1,178.85 for a total of $68,158.85. And number 2, that the funds were approved in the 2024 capital budget under the water and wastewater account number as shown with the estimate of $115,000.
Thank you, Jess. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to Jessica, if you could please, so the 4 pumps that are slated to be replaced, you're going to get a core rebate on them, it looks like, if they're sent back in a timely fashion. I don't understand this 4-week threshold because I don't understand when you're going to order the new pumps, scheduled to have them replaced and then try to get them. And I don't see any mention of what the core refund was. The other thing that makes me ask a question is it smart for us, instead of sending all 4 back as a core price that are probably still operational, would it not make sense to maybe keep them on a shelf somewhere? That if one of these pumps that we buy brand new today from the single source, that we actually have one that we could throw in at a moment's notice and get us back up and running, or is that a reasonable thought?
Through you, Mayor. The 4 pumps that are being removed from the wet well will be sent back with Xylem. So Xylem has an agreement. We did this with the Tupper Street pumping station, and they also took the pumps back to be refurbished. They will work in different applications. Our application, they do not work very well, and we're having a lot of operational issues. In terms of having pumps on the shelf, it is not recommended. In our ECA, with the environmental compliance approval for the wastewater treatment plant, we're only allowed 4 pumps in our wet well. So if we have extra pumps on the shelf, technically we can't use them even. So there's no point in keeping them because we can't swap them out. And we are able to go down to less than 4 pumps for a long period of time. Currently, we are down to 3 because 1 pump has overheated too many times, and so it doesn't make a lot of operational sense to have the storage of 4 other large pumps.
Thank you, Jess, for that clarity. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through your chair to Jess, the delta between the cost of the pumps and what was budgeted, you allude to is going to be used for the labor. Was that part of the original budget? Like, was there a labor versus material on the original budget, and how close are you at this point?
Through you, Mayor, to Deputy Huntley. So yes, the $115,000 was originally budgeted for both the equipment and labor. The equipment has come in higher than normal, no surprise to us. And I'm waiting on a quote for labor right now to determine if we need to come back and ask for more. It depends on the extent of the work and who brings in the quotes, but yes, they seem to be a lot higher than usual.
Thank you for that. Follow up?
Through you, Chair, dare I ask how much higher?
Well, I don't believe the installation has gone out to tender yet. Is that correct? No, so we won't know until that good news comes in and it's concealed envelope and staff then come back to council to let us. The pumps, with regards to the pumps, do we have that confirmation of that amount? No, not that, but we can get that out in an email to council. Okay. In regards to the report, there are two recommendations, but really it's only the one recommendation to receive for information at this point because the capital amount was already approved in the budget process with the water wastewater budget presentation. So looking for a mover and a seconder to receive the report for information. Councillor Byrne, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor. That is approved. Thank you, Jess. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there is one more report for you, which is Public Works 2024-03, Millbrook Wastewater Treatment Plant Sand Filter Replacement.
Thank you, Mayor. My last report today. So Public Works 2024-03, Millbrook Wastewater Treatment Plant Sand Filter Replacement. So the recommendations before you is that council receive for information that staff proceed with the purchase of replacement silica sand for the Millbrook Wastewater Treatment Plant as for the single source township purchasing bylaw by C&M Environmental Technologies in the amount of $71,536.50. Net municipal HSD in the amount of $1,259.04 for a total of $72,795.54. And two, that the funds were approved in the 2024 capital budget under the water wastewater account number listed and with an estimate of $175,000.
Thank you, Jess. Questions, members of council, Deputy Mayor Huntley, and then Councillor Byrne.
Through you, Chair. I guess you're picking up about another $100,000 of the labor in this one. Is there any ability to combine the labor, or are they completely different trades in this sense? Okay.
I just had my head down taking a note. So that was there. There's no ability to co-fund that because they're different trades. Okay, thank you. Sorry for that. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to Jessica. So we have 4 filter beds in the system. We've damaged one because of low flow supposedly. Is there any need to have all these beds in service all the time? Does the silica sand, does it expire or derate so much if it's not being used? Are we in a situation where even though we're going to replace all 4 filter beds, that we never maybe put 2 of them online at all until such time that they're actually required, and then maybe save the damage that was done to the one bed? And I'm kind of wondering just what that life expectancy is and how many tons of sand we're talking. And the other question I'd love to ask is, what do you do with the old sand?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Byrne. So the sand flow, sorry, I'll start over. So when the wastewater plant was originally designed in 2016, we were less than 50%. We were about 30% flow entering the plant. These 4 cells operate in they automatically change duty, as they're called. So as they move through, every time another cycle goes through the SBR, which is the reactor, every time it goes through a reactor, it goes to a new cell for the tertiary treatment. With that means there's more use coming in with this new subdivision on. So the flow has increased and the use of the filters have also increased. With understanding how cell 1 has gone sour essentially. I've spoken with the city of Peterborough. They are the operating authority. They run our plant. They will be doing further maintenance to it to ensure that it doesn't happen again. The sand could last for 20 years. It's really just based on operations and maintenance, preventative maintenance as well. And then your last question of disposing of the sand, it's not a designated designated hazardous substance when it's wet. So we will be transferring it wet and disposing of it properly wet as it's not a concern. It is a large amount of sand, but we can dispose of that fairly easily as it stands.
Thank you, Jess. Follow-up question, Councilor Byrne?
Please, through the chair, just for clarity, so we've switched off one of these filter beds for a number of years or months or whatever, 1 year. That being said, even though it's sequential through the 4 beds, obviously there's a way of rerouting that in the system. I'm just wondering, do we need to have 3 or 4 online at this moment in time? Or is it prudent to say we can make use of what we have without taking the chance of souring another one?
Through you, Mayor. So I'll bring it back to the environmental compliance approval again. We are regulated to have the 4 cells in working order, and it's based on peak flows. So if we do get an insane rain amount or a rain event or what have you, we have to be able to treat what we are rated to. So we can't have them on offline for just because. The only reason it is offline right now is because it doesn't work. And we are doing we aren't over capacity. We're not even we're about 50% capacity. So we can run with it offline currently, but going forward, it is not recommended to do so.
Thanks for all that, Jess. Follow-up, Deputy Mayor Huntley?
It's through you, Chair. Yes, well, follow-up question, well, not my follow-up question, but to one of the answers you gave about transporting the sand when it's wet, it's not hazardous. Eventually, it's gonna dry. Like what? I'm a little confused. Like, is it, if we move it while it's wet, it's gonna go dry somewhere else and then it can't be moved? So can you help me understand that one?
Through you, Mayor, to Deputy Huntley. So understood that, yes, it does dry out. We are disposing of it in the Larmer pit. And once we do so, we'll be covering it with dirt. So essentially, it will not be exposed to air after that process.
Very good. Seeing no other questions, the recommendations, there are 2 in the report, but it's really just a recommendation the council receive for information. Moved by Councilor Byrne, seconded by Deputy Mayor Huntley. All in favor? That is approved. You made it, Jessica. Congratulations. Thanks for all those tricky answers. I know it's really technical stuff and you did a great job. Exactly. 7.8 is the next report. Corporate Services, the 173rd Millbrook Fair Community Festival designation, Ms. Page.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to yourself and the rest of council, before you is the annual report for the 173rd Millbrook Fair with the recommendations before you. Do you want me to read them aloud?
No, I don't think so, Ms. Page. This is again, another sort of requirement, standard process. We're very happy to be partnering with the fair again in the little capacity that we do, and hopefully the weather holds and it'll be a nice hot weekend for all of the fair's activities. So this is just to recognize that it's a designation, that we have all the sign-offs for all the other approval authorities. So with that, we'll look for a mover and a seconder. Councilor Byrne, Councilor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Thank you, Ms. Page. CAO report, capital status. Ms. Hurley, anything to note in your report?
Through you, council, no, there's nothing to note. The report is before you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it, council.
Questions with regards to the CAO capital project status report? Councilor Byrne?
Through the chair, no, the CAO and I have already discussed one item, so it's going to be taken care of. So that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, look for a mover and a seconder then to receive the report. Councilor Edgerton, Councilor Natchoff, all in favor? That is. Council committee verbal reports, any committee reports that anyone has? Counselor Byrne?
To the chair, I'd just like to mention I made it into the St. Patty's Day Parade in Peterborough the other day. And all the parades that all I've held the years, I was amazed that the parade got temporarily delayed for a railroad crossing, which was kind of unique. I never even understood that it might have happened before. But the last quarter of the parade got held up for a little while, but a good turnout on a windy day.
Excellent. Any other committee reports? Seeing none, look for a mover and a seconder to receive those. Counselor Byrne, Counselor Natchoff, all in favor? Those are approved. Sorry, hot mic. There is no general business. There is no correspondence for information. There is no correspondence for action. So we'll read the bylaw number 2024-16, being a bylaw to appoint building inspectors for the Township of Cabmonaghan, be read a first, second, third time and passed this 18th day of March, signed by the mayor clerk and the corporate seal attached thereto, moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, Counselor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. There is no unfinished business. Any notices of motion? Seeing none. The confirming bylaw, that bylaw number 2024-17, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held March 18th, 2024, be read a first, second, third time and passed this 18th day of March, signed by the mayor and the clerk and the corporate seal attached thereto, moved by Counselor Edgerton, Counselor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. And last but not least, a motion to adjourn the meeting. Counselor Natchoff, Deputy Mayor Huntley, all in favor? That is approved. There are a number of upcoming events. I'll read them aloud. The Cabot-Monaghan Public Library Board meeting is Tuesday, March 19th at 7 p.m. The Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting is Thursday, March 21st at 9 a.m. The next regular council meeting is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 at 1 p.m. in the council chambers. The Millbrook Downtown BIA Board of Management meeting is Thursday, April 11th at 8 a.m. and the subsequent regular council meeting is April 15th at 1 p.m. Thank you for listening and for attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you in April.